It was a busy evening on the main road, cars honking, people rushing, and a light drizzle making the streets shine under the neon lights. Among the crowd was a young delivery girl, balancing her heavy backpack with determination. She wasn't just delivering food, she was chasing time, dreams, and a little extra money to keep her life running. But as she carefully made her way through the street, a loud roar cut through the noise, the sound of a biker speeding recklessly, weaving between cars, showing off as if the road belonged only to him. At first, she tried to ignore him. After all, her job was to stay focused and deliver the order before the clock ticked out. But fate had other plans. Just as she reached the corner, the biker swerved too close, nearly grazing her shoulder. Startled, she stepped aside, but instead of slowing down, he stopped right in front of her. With a smirk that carried arrogance, he shoved her lightly to make his way through, as though her presence on the road was nothing but an obstacle. For a moment, silence seemed to hang in the air. People around noticed. Some shook their heads, but no one stepped forward. The girl stood still, her eyes fixed on him, not with fear, but with quiet strength. She adjusted the strap of her delivery bag, her breathing steady. The biker revved his engine, laughing, certain that his little act of dominance had gone unchecked. What he didn't know was that the story wasn't over yet. In the blink of an eye, everything changed. The street witnessed something no one expected, something that would flip the power of the moment completely. That arrogant smirk on his face would soon fade, replaced with shock as he found himself beside his own overturned bike, staring at the delivery girl in disbelief. What happened in those few seconds? How did the situation turn so quickly against him? Stay with me, because this is one story you won't want to miss. The biker sat on the ground, confused and angry, while the crowd whispered among themselves. Some people pulled out their phones, curious to capture what had just unfolded, while others looked at the delivery girl with surprise. She didn't appear shaken, nor did she gloat over what had happened. Instead, she simply stood there, calm, like someone who had been through challenges far tougher than this. Her hands were steady as she adjusted her bag again, ready to continue her delivery, as if the incident was just another pause in her long day. But who was she really? Not many in that street knew her story. Behind that plain delivery uniform was someone who had spent years balancing work, study, and survival. Every day she rode through crowded roads and heavy traffic, facing impatient drivers and constant risk. To her, danger wasn't new, it was part of the routine. Yet, she carried herself with discipline and quiet resilience, something that came not from strength alone, but from experience. The biker, on the other hand, was known around that neighborhood. Loud, reckless, and always looking for attention, he had built a reputation for disturbing others on the road. He enjoyed the stares, the reactions, and the fear he sometimes caused. But that night, things had gone differently. He hadn't expected anyone, least of all a delivery girl, to stand their ground against him. The drizzle turned into heavier rain, drops bouncing on the pavement as the sound of the engine still echoed faintly. People leaned closer, waiting to see what would happen next. Would the biker rise and confront her again? Would she simply walk away, leaving him with his pride broken on the wet street? The tension hung in the air, sharp and unanswered, as their eyes met once more. The biker finally stood up, brushing off the dirt from his jacket, his pride hurting more than his body. The rainwater dripped from his helmet as he glared at the delivery girl, who hadn't moved an inch. Around them, the crowd grew restless. Some wanted to step in, others stayed back, curious to see how this strange clash would play out. The delivery girl's phone buzzed with a reminder her order was still waiting to be dropped off, but her eyes remained on him, calm and unshaken. What the crowd didn't know was that this wasn't the first time she had crossed paths with people like him. Every evening she navigated streets filled with impatient drivers, honking cars, and riders who believed speed was power. She had learned to stay alert, to read people's moves, to balance her safety with her duty. For her, this was not just a job, it was her way of keeping her family afloat, paying bills, and holding on to dreams that seemed too far away. That night's encounter was just another test, though it came in a more dangerous form. The biker, however, saw it differently. For him, it wasn't about the road anymore. It was about ego. Being humbled in front of a crowd, and worse, by someone he considered weaker, burned inside him. His friends often looked up to him as fearless, but now whispers in the crowd were cutting deeper than any wound. He clenched his fists, torn between retreating or regaining his reputation. Meanwhile, people around began to choose sides. Some quietly admired the delivery girl's courage, whispering that she was stronger than she looked. Others shook their heads, worried the situation could escalate further. The air was thick with uncertainty. The rain kept falling, the overturned bike still lying on its side, and both of them stood locked in a silent standoff that promised this was only the beginning of something bigger. The street had gone unusually quiet except for the steady tapping of rain against the pavement. The biker's engine was off, his pride still lying there with the overturned bike, while the delivery girl stood firm, rain soaking through her jacket. The crowd sensed that something was about to happen, something no one wanted to miss. Every eye was fixed on the two figures facing each other in the glow of streetlights and neon signs. The biker stepped closer, his boots splashing in the puddles. His glare was sharp, but beneath it was hesitation. He wanted to reclaim the control. He had lost, yet every step he took felt heavier with the eyes of strangers watching. The delivery girl didn't flinch. Her grip on the delivery bag tightened slightly, but her expression stayed calm, almost unreadable. She had nothing to prove. Yet her silence spoke louder than words, making the tension grow with every second. The crowd whispered nervously. Some were ready to step in if things got worse, while others encouraged the drama, their voices low but urgent. A taxi driver leaned against his car, shaking his head, muttering that the biker had finally met his match. A young boy in the front clutched his mother's hand, eyes wide. Sensing the weight of the moment, the biker's hands twitched near the handlebars of his fallen bike, as if debating whether to pick it up or leave it lying there like a symbol of his defeat. The rain poured harder now, drenching both of them, washing the street yet leaving the standoff untouched. The delivery girl finally took one small step forward, her eyes steady, her posture unbroken. That single movement sent ripples through the crowd. This was the moment before everything would either explode or turn in an unexpected direction. The night was holding its breath, waiting for the climax no one could predict. Just as the delivery girl's step forward sent a hush through the crowd, another sound cut through the rain, the sharp rumble of more motorcycles approaching. Headlights pierced the drizzle as two more bikers rolled onto the scene, parking their bikes beside the overturned one. The crowd parted slightly, murmurs rising. These weren't strangers. They were the bikers' friends, the same reckless group, often seen racing through the streets, laughing at rules and intimidating anyone who crossed their path. The delivery girl didn't move back. Her eyes shifted briefly to the newcomers, then returned to the biker in front of her. The crowd felt the tension shift. This was no longer just a standoff between two people. The stakes had grown, and no one knew how far it might go. One of the new bikers smirked, tapping his helmet, while the other pointed at the delivery bag on her back as if mocking her for standing her ground. Their arrival added weight to the silence, and suddenly the night felt heavier, charged with the threat of something bigger. The biker who had fallen seemed torn between relief and embarrassment. His friend's presence gave him strength, but it also deepened the wound to his pride. If he backed away now, he'd lose face in front of them. If he went further, the crowd might not stay silent. The delivery girl remained still, her soaked jacket clinging to her frame, but her calm presence made it clear she wasn't about to crumble. The whispers grew louder. Some people urged the delivery girl to leave before things escalated. Others pulled out their phones, convinced they were about to witness something unforgettable. The rainwater streamed down the overturned bike, reflecting the glow of headlights. Like a warning. The tension had doubled, the conflict had sharpened. And now the street felt like the stage of a storm that hadn't yet broken. The three bikers now stood together, their presence heavy in the rain-soaked street. The delivery girl remained alone, her quiet defiance standing against their swagger. The crowd tensed, unsure if they should step in or stay back. For a moment, it felt like the street itself was holding its breath, waiting for someone to make the first move. Then, unexpectedly, the fallen biker bent down to lift his overturned bike. His friends expected him to laugh it off and continue their usual show of dominance. But instead, he paused. As his hand gripped the handlebar, his eyes met the delivery girl's again. This time, something had shifted her unshaken composure, had unsettled him in a way his friends couldn't see. He straightened slowly, reined D,